Dude, I'm you. You're me.
What's up?
Hi, I'm Sophie.
Hi, I'm Paul. And we are
SP Film Viewers.
I think this will be the Valentine's episode that we're going to be doing this month.
A Valentine's Day episode, and we're having a guest on it.
Yeah.
I thought Valentine's Day was just for two people, not a threesome, Paul.
No, it's not that kind of shindig. But from what I gather from the film synopsis, it seems it incorporates things about love, and
Okay.
I think that the story is kind of like a self-appreciation type of thing anyway, so
Oh, nice.
so like
it.
not going for the simple soppy stuff.
Not a rom-com, you mean?
Well, not a rom-com, but it's like a comedy, it seems. Yeah.
Okay.
The film is called My Old Ass.
My old ass.
My Old Ass.
Is it American?
Yes, otherwise it'd be called My
Bum.
Old Arse.
Oh,
If it was
bum.
British. My Old Bottom.
Bottom.
Yes.
Why does that always remind me of, it's probably not bottom, but it's bottle.
Bottle.
From Love Actually.
Straw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple. Oh, that's the same.
Table.
Oh, table. It's the same. Apple's the same too.
Apple. Anyway, that's enough doing that. So, yeah, it stars April from
Mm-hmm.
Parks and Recs.
Who April is? Yeah, love April as a character.
Mhm.
Don't know her actress name.
That is Aubrey Plaza. Is there Aubrey.
Aubrey.
Yeah.
Nice. Thought you were going to say Audrey.
And I don't know the other lead she's working against.
Again,
Ma-
it's not with.
Maisie Stella. But by when I read the synopsis, you'll know what I mean by it. But this is, by the way, this is the one that a guest suggested as one of the things for us to talk about. I'm thinking, yeah, we haven't seen it.
I think it'll be something up my street anyways, at least. I think I'm going to enjoy it. So that's always nice when we've got a guest and I can enjoy it.
So the synopsis reads, a mushroom trip brings free-spirited Elliot face to face with her 39-year-old self, which is Aubrey Plaza. I've seen this sort of trailer and stuff related to it. But when Elliot's old ass delivers warnings to her younger self, Elliot realises she has to rethink everything about her family, life, and love.
How old is this film?
We're doing quite well with things. We're kind of covering newer films than we would normally do. So this came out last year.
The reason why I'm asking is I didn't think I've got Parks and Recs young April in my head, and when you said she was going to be acting like of an age of somebody 39, I was like,
and she is. I did look up. She's.
Is she?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, I'm actually quite intrigued because I think the older you get, the more cynical you get, and the more you beat yourself up about where you're not in life or where you think you should be or whatever. So I think it might be a little
good reflection of ourselves. You mean?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So our guest be our first Canadian guest.
I love a Canadian.
Do you?
Yeah, The Weeknd's Canadian.
Oh, true. Yeah, you've got also Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I really like Canadians. I've just never met a Canadian.
Well, we're going to break that cycle now, aren't we?
Yeah.
And the film is also an hour and a half long, so that should make you happy as well.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like you've let me meet a Canadian, an hour and a half film, and
potentially about romance
and
stuff.
Potentially I like the film. Hopefully. I feel like it's sounding promising.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yep, so let's go check out My Old Ass, and we'll be reconvening back with our guest very shortly.
When we
something good.
Something good.
Why are you struggling to find something good from the future?
This is good.
Okay.
You're gonna be psyched.
Okay, tell me.
That you are a PhD student. Yeah.
No. What? You're joking.
But I don't want to tell you in what, because I want you to have something to look forward to.
Look forward to?
Yeah.
Did you just tell me I'm in my 40s and I'm still in school?
30s. 30s.
And we are back, having watched My Old Ass. And we are not alone, as we are joined by a special guest. I'd like to welcome Adam Galloway from the Raised on Film podcast. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this early morning for you. I know it's you're based in Canada, and and I believe it's quite cold there as well.
Yes, it is chilly.
Yeah. Before we get into things, would you like to tell the listeners about your podcast and where they can find you on the socials and anything like that? Just a little self-plug at the start, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Raised on Film. The two main platforms are Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but there's some other ones as well. You can find me on Instagram. My wife runs my Instagram page. I don't have my own personal Instagram. I don't really do that, but she does a wonderful job doing that. And I basically started podcasting with some friends during COVID. The four of us had a podcast, and then basically when they kind of petered off, I just continued doing it. It's just a nice avenue to stay in touch with some of my friends and then connect with people all across the world. We just talk about movies, different types of, a specific movie like this, a filmography of a director or an actor or actress, any movies it's a wide range of different stuff that I do, just anything that I feel inspired. So either something that I'm passionate about or something that my guest is passionate about, and just basically interviewing them. So, yeah.
And so we kind of had a discussion before, like what film we're going to talk about, and you proposed the idea of this one. Had you seen the film before, or is this your first time watch, like it was for us?
So this was, I believe I sent you a list of a bunch of movies, if I remember correctly, and I think you said this is the one that stood out. This is something my wife and I watched right when it came to Prime last year, and it was, we were both mesmerized by it. Like, we absolutely loved it. And it was my second favorite movie of the year, or second favorite of last year. That's cool. So I loved it.
I think it's one of those for us where it's our first watch, but it made me have loads of different emotions going through it. And I think what's brilliant about this film is, as you kind of get older, it's so relatable with how time just goes so quickly. And I think sometimes you just need to stop and be grateful for what you've got before it's gone. And I think that's kind of the massive life lesson within this film for me. And I think I'm a big drive of that. Like, I want to sit, I want to enjoy the birds, I want to enjoy my family around me. And I think we constantly, when we're younger, just we want to get a house, we want to get a job, we want to have a husband or whatever relationship we want to grow and kind of move on from, like, being trapped in your family home. And it's only when you grow up that you realise those connections are the most important thing. And you miss half of it being really, really stubborn in your teens. And this is a lovely way of kind of portraying that in a film in a nutshell. And I think that's just something that when you showed me it, was something that made me think I'm going to actually really enjoy this film. But then it's quite current as well. So I feel like we've had something probably kind of like this. All I'm thinking of is like Freaky Friday when they transform bodies. Like, that's kind of like somewhat the similarities.
I suppose,
I was going to ask you guys, because the movie this reminds me of, and it's set in your neck of the woods, obviously. Did you guys ever watch About Time?
Yes.
That's
That's
pretty.
My wife and I love that movie, and there are so many similarities with just the final message, and you get two very different people and stages of life going through. In this, you have a young girl. In that one, your protagonist is an older guy. I don't know what his age is, but like at that stage of his life of moving out, finding the love of his life, having kids. Like it's the same story in two different time periods.
100%. Now you've said that, we love About Time, don't we? But that gets me every time as well. Like, I will end up.
Yeah, we're both bursting into tears in that film.
Yeah, very emotional.
Yeah, that certainly does make you appreciate who you spend your time with and how you spend your time and all that kind of stuff. And this
Hmm.
it's like more like obviously a young. Is it? I don't know what Gen. Is it? No, we're not Gen Z now. Or for them, it's what?
Is it like
What?
what, Alpha now? I don't even know what the name is, but yeah.
Yeah. What of the current generation of 20
Yeah.
in the 2020s is that young generation is a film for them, and so like it's like a feels very indie at the same time, but also kind of with the sensibilities of like, but the language that they use. Obviously, for young kids, it's like F this, F
Hmm.
that. Kind of.
But then they are quite more, I think, aware with what's going on with the world. They are
Yeah.
correct with like, oh well, in when I'm 39, will it be all up in flames and global warming
Hmm.
and all of
Hmm.
that? So I think it's more like pressing things. And then obviously like with your gender labels, I feel like they're very open within
With
that,
this,
Yes.
yeah, more
which
so.
So
is
it was Generation Z, and then the new generation right now is Generation Alpha. So it's
Alpha.
kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
It's
Okay.
I've
and
not
I
even heard
totally
of that one.
yeah. And my when watching it this time with my wife, she's pointing out like just the outfits that what Elliot is wearing throughout, and just her friends, and like it's very progressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I did say like Elliot reminds me of Billie Eilish a little bit with her dress sense and the
Yes,
way that her
absolutely.
style is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she wear like I even pointed out like every shirt she's wearing is like 2 or 3 sizes too big, and
Yeah.
it's very trendy right now. I don't know any I don't follow trends. She's my trend follower, and she's like, yeah, it's in line with exactly what people are wearing these
Hmm.
days.
I'll be honest, I'm a millennial.
Me too.
I'm I
Yeah.
I understand of like older Elliot, so we I always want to call her
April
April from
from
Parks and Recs because that's how
That's I love her from that 100%. She's basically April.
yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And so I just always see her as that character. But
Hmm.
it was just I'll be honest, I think the only downside with this film is I just wanted more of her in it, like because I just love her to
Yes.
bits.
Mhm.
Apparently, she was only on set for about a week. I was reading about it this morning, and
Mhm.
I don't know if it was the way it was originally written or if they only had a limited time with her. I don't know, but
Mm.
it would have been nice if a couple of the phone calls were translated to in person. I agree with you. I love
Yeah.
Aubrey Plaza,
Mhm.
and I think her last scene, the very emotional scene, when she eventually hugs Chad, I think as emotional as that was, the way it was, if you had a little bit more with her, it could have hit even harder. But the phone calls are great. Like her presence is felt throughout the whole movie, which is nice. It is a
Yeah.
short movie too.
Yeah, it's hour and a half. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
short,
I love a
which I
short
do
movie as
appreciate. Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
nowadays they're a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they really
It
are.
is. And the fact that like from the get-go, kind of like thrown into the whole like we're doing this mushroom trip. Like not long. It's not like
Within
drawn
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, no, like
Mhm.
eking it out just for the sake of we need to stretch this as long as we can. So
Mhm.
that's quite good in the sense that right, okay, we're getting into things right away.
Because I was quite intrigued because obviously when I read the back, I didn't know how they were going to incorporate this older version of herself appearing,
Mhm.
really. So I didn't realize it was going to be like a trip and then her 39-year-old self was just going to randomly appear and be like, oh, actually, we haven't had life as easy as we'd hoped it would be.
Mhm.
And, like we're still studying, we've still got lots of progression to go. And I think that is really valid. Like in your 20s, you think you've graduated uni, you think, oh right, I'm gonna do everything. By like mid 30s, I'm gonna have a house, I'm gonna have a job, I'm gonna have a kid, I'm gonna be well established. And then life just kind of throws you lots of curveballs where you don't get exactly where you need to be. And I
Mhm.
think when you're younger, you get that false illusion that not saying you can't do anything you want to do, you can, but there's going to be things that you don't plan that are going to throw you in a loop a little bit and
Mhm.
you might not get
Yeah, and
exactly
your
where you want.
circumstances changed that based on that
Yeah.
really, and a lot of it is down to I say like I say monetary things more so than anything to get
Mm.
to where you need to be. You obviously need that to progress and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But
And the time as well. Like
yeah,
at the time, it depends on what you think is more important to focus on.
Mhm.
So, like when you're a
Mhm.
teenager, you might just want to hang around with your friends and not actually pick up study and you just want to enjoy yourself. And then it's when you're older, you think, oh, actually, if I'd have gone and done this course sooner, or you kind of always have these avenues of, if I'd have gone down here, would that have made my life better and all these ifs and buts? And that's like what we're saying
Mhm.
about time. It's kind of going back into that. Is it like a wardrobe he goes into?
yeah, you're a closet or anything. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like closes his eyes and then,
Yeah.
but then
Rectify things.
I think what I do like about this one in About Time, every time he does change something, he has like a repercussion as to,
Yes.
well, you've changed this, but actually that was like a matter that actually brought you down this avenue. Now I think his child changes at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Well, yeah, they set the rules up in the movie, but basically because of the when you go be past and before a child being born, your sperm changes. So the sex of your baby changes. And his dad teaches him that. And then that's the most emotional moment in the movie is when he realizes that he can't go back to see his dad anymore because he's about to have another kid. He
yeah.
can't go back. Like,
Yeah.
and again, it takes this cool avenue of time travel, but woven into it is a wonderful story that everyone can relate to. And it's the
Mm.
same thing with this.
Mhm.
Even when you get to like a crazy out of the box scene with the Justin Bieber and she's hallucinating, like it's
Mhm.
a crazy, ridiculous scene, but you care about her. You know
Mhm.
she's on mushrooms, so you buy it because there's people obsessed with Justin Bieber out there. There's people that have had crazy mushroom trips, so you get it, and it's
Mhm.
grounded and relatable. The whole movie. About Time had the relationship with the dad. I love the very small little relationship that she has with her mom, and it leads to the beautiful scene with her telling her about her rocking her when she was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
kid, and it's just those sweet little moments that a mother, a father, a child can all relate to. So it's proof that you can tell a wonderful story that hits in 90 minutes. You don't need 2.5 hours. There's some great 2.5 hour movies, but this is just like it's trimmed right down to all the
Mm.
necessary stuff.
And I think that's what's really important is I never got bored. I never thought, oh, this bit could be not
Yeah.
needed.
Same. Yeah.
Everything
You want
just,
more. You want a little bit more,
yeah.
and that's the
It,
best.
most of, to be fair, it's just Elliot's being 39 that I want more of. Just because I think
Yeah.
actually there's one scene where she's on a phone and you hear like sirens going off and you hear like
Mm-hmm.
something really going down in Elliot's life at that time, but you don't really know what's happening
Mhm.
with her. I feel like Chad as well is a mystery because initially when I see Chad, I'm thinking, well, he's such a lovely guy. What did he do
Yeah.
wrong? I straight away went to all the bad things that a woman would
Of
go
course.
to.
I think everyone did. Yeah.
Mhm.
He's going to cheat on her. He's going
Mhm.
to get her pregnant straight away and then abandon her. I was thinking all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Never did I think he was going to die.
Whereas
Yeah.
I kind of that pieced that together a little bit as the film went on and thinking, wait a minute, like this seems kind of familiar from a different another British film, which is I don't know if you've seen Last Christmas.
Yes.
The
The one with
yeah.
the girl from Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, Amelia
Yeah.
Clark,
Yes.
and that
Yeah.
was like I was going through that. I was like, oh wait, I'm thinking he's no longer around or something as his characters
Mm-hmm.
in that as well. So it's like, oh, I didn't say anything until it was kind of revealed to you. Yeah, so
And
I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
knew it. Kind of tapped your leg and it's like, I knew there was something
And
that was
yet
going to happen.
this movie does a brilliant job of leaving you on a hopeful note. Like the
Mm.
last shot of the movie is her on the water with the sun beaming down on her. She
Hmm.
looks gorgeous and she's
mm,
excited. I think she screams and she's hopeful for the rest of her life. And we know it's going to end in well, not her life's not going to end in tragedy, but his life
Yeah, yeah,
is. And we
because
know she's going to be sad. We've seen the result through Aubrey Plaza, who is obviously broken,
yeah,
mm,
and yet you're hopeful, and it just weaving tragedy and hopefulness and all these themes is and that's life, right?
mm.
Like we're all and like there's a great moment, like why hang out and make all these memories with people when you know they're gonna die one day? Like it's morbid and it's
Yeah.
hard to think about, but it's like no, it doesn't stop you. I'm like and like there's the great moment where because my wife always says this too. She's like, no, I'm gonna die before my mom. I can't have her like when she's talking on the phone with her. It's so true because you don't
Yeah.
want to think about that stuff, even
yeah,
Mhm.
though it's realistic. Your parent, you hope your kids outlive you, but
Mhm.
as a kid, if you love your parents, you don't want them to go either. So it's just
Yeah.
so real,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
real emotions that everyone deals with.
And I think that's the thing. Like, if that was the case, if you knew everybody you were going to meet is going to die, because technically that is life,
Hmm.
you you wouldn't have anybody, and it't be a really lonely, boring life if
Yeah,
you
well,
thought
like
of it
she
that
said, you
way.
would never
Mm.
leave the
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
What's the
No.
point?
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Actually thinking about it now, when I don't know if it's a thing when you get a bit older and you realize that life isn't, I don't know, in your 20s or early 18s, you think life's just really long.
Yeah.
Time goes fast and you don't really think of death like
Hmm.
well, I didn't personally think of death as a thing unless you've had it as a younger age being present in your life. I think it's when you get older and you see like your parents aging that then actually makes you think, oh goodness, like life is short. You don't have that much time with them. And I think she was really lucky, Elliot's character, to go back and revisit those and go, actually, I'm going to spend time with my parents when I'm younger and value them more. Because at that stage, you could probably be really bratty. I'd never had a bad teenage stage. I was more like a terrible twos toddler. I was a nightmare. But when I was in my teens, I was great at being like around my family. But some people, like when they're in the teens, they just want to go to uni. They just want to get out and they feel
rebel,
stifled.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we kind of see from Elliot at the beginning. Like she's so ready to go to school and graduate and all of that and just leave the family until she realizes it's the last time she'll be on that farm as a
And
family.
I agree with you. And what I like that this movie does is she doesn't do it in a really bratty, selfish way. She's fine with her family. She talks to them and whatever. She's not a dick to them, but she still learns that she could be a little better and cherish it a little more. It would have been a completely different movie if at the beginning she's just an asshole to them. She doesn't talk to her mom. She whatever. I mean, she shrugs her off a little bit, but she's okay. But she just realized that she can do even better. And we all go through that. I'm guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. I'm in the same boat as you, where I've always been close with my family. We still are now. But looking back, it's like, yeah, I could have done better. I could have done more when I was living with them. We have lots of memories, and I'm happy I can look back on them. But there's not a lot of regret, but the only little regret is I could have done more. And I think a lot of people in anything in life, when you look back, I could have done more. I could have did better on this test. I could have prepared more for this or that or the other. So that's what's so good about it, is that it just all these characters feel real.
And I actually looked at the character listing just online a minute ago because I'm rubbish at remembering people's names. And it's actually a small cast. There isn't a lot of people actually in here. But it's really outstandingly impacted me watching it. So that shows how well they've done as actors and actresses in this role of bringing this movie to light. It's beautifully shot. I want to go live on a cranberry farm. Have you ever been to one?
I was going to ask you guys, what did you feel? How did you feel about the location? Because so that's Muskoka. It was filmed where it was set. It's about 4 or 5 hours from where I live. I've been to Muskoka though. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
It absolutely looks like the cinematography on that, like beautiful, just like the location scouting and stuff like that. It's absolutely amazing, beautiful.
The writer and director is, I think, grew up on a cranberry farm. I think there's a lot of similarities she pulled from real life, and she's from Ontario. And she actually in London, which is our London, not your London. Our London.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Our London that copies your London. It's about a half an hour from where I live, and she actually is from there. I think she went to school there. And so for me, for watching so many Hollywood movies all the time, and for some reason, Hollywood movies like to pretend Canada doesn't exist. It's nice that they film a movie and set it in Canada. She mentions Toronto in it, which is cool for us. And it's just, there's so many, and when you know that so many Canadian landmarks are used as Americans, like there's so many movies filmed in Vancouver, Alberta now, like Canada's in a lot of movies. Cronenberg shot in Toronto a lot. It's nice when we get the representation that this is Ontario, Canada, and it's gorgeous. So it's a nice treat for me as well. And she's only directed 2 movies. Did you guys watch The Fallout? Did you guys ever see it? It's a little bit darker, but again, very real. It's about a school shooting with Jenna Ortega before she blew up. Very good movie. I highly recommend it. She's a really good writer and director. I think her name's Megan Park, I believe, is the writer and director of this. Yeah. Very good.
Funny you should mention Jenna Ortega, because I feel like obviously I think maybe with budgetary things, I could see her being a younger version of what Aubrey Plaza kind of becomes in the 13. Right. Yeah. Yes. You see the sort of like the
similar personalities, similar style. I totally see it. Yeah.
But no, so like the cast, like I did really grow to like Elliot as the young Elliot as the film went on. Initially, it wasn't because I've not seen her in anything before, but as time grew on, you kind of grew with the character, which is something you want to do as you go through a film. You don't want to be like, oh, can't stand you or anything like that. But her progression is really good as well. I think she comes to
Nashville is where she was known for. I don't know if you guys watched Nashville. It was a
We did
popular show.
wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you've said that,
She's the youngest daughter in that. So she's actually a singer. I don't know if that was why they incorporated the Justin Bieber scene. She's a really talented singer. But I don't think she's done much. But I thought she is great. I can see every age bracket relating to her. Whether you are her age, of course. Whether you're a little bit older, of course. When you're older, yeah. And then you get to the point at the very end with the ending monologue when she's listening to the voicemail, and she's like, just be you. Be courageous and dumb, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember all the stuff she says, but it's just like, it's okay. Enjoy it, because this is the best time of your life. And I think she perfectly, I would, even again, like we've talked about different generations, maybe someone might not connect 100% with her, but you get the youth out of it, whether you're in a different generation. Like you said, we're millennials. I get it. I'm sure if my parents or in-laws watch this, they would totally. I think this is a timeless movie because it's stuff that everyone relates to, whether it's a different generation or not. We all get it. We all get being young.
And I think I kind of get the sense of the situation that Elliot learns later on when they're from her parents that they're actually selling the farm. She always thought, oh, it's going to be back. It's like a base point to come. Are going to go away and then are going to always come back to the farm. But obviously, nothing lasts forever in that sense as well. Not just obviously like with obviously people being around and everything like that. And I
think that's what works with the rawness of this film. It's like it's not one of those idealisms like, oh, okay, eventually because she knows that she's found out the farm's going to be sold earlier, that the family keeps the farm or anything like that. It's like, actually, no, they're still going to sell the farm. It's gone too far. You need to learn that that's what life is. And sometimes it doesn't go the way you plan, and that's okay. Whereas I think normal movies would have gone, oh, well, actually, in the end, they keep the farm. She stays with Chad.
A lot of movies would have done that,
Yeah. So, and the circumstances as well, it wasn't just like she says, oh, is it because I don't want to take over? But the dad says, no, it's a lot of things. It's a monetary thing, which is a sad fact of things that normally they have businesses go out of business and such. So it's that's always a thing that takeovers and stuff like somebody wants to buy the land, so it's like, oh well, take a buyout from it. And
I think what's going to be interesting going forward, because I'll definitely rewatch this film, is actually there probably was a clue earlier when she was like asking her younger Elliot where she was, and she's like, oh, is that not being bulldozed down or something like that? I'm sure she said it. Her older Elliot did.
Yeah.
And I didn't twig at that point that meant the farm wasn't going to be there. So I was still on younger Elliot's journey of feeling how she felt, knowing like your childhood home's not going to be around anymore to go back to.
Yeah, and what's nice too, just along the lines of just life and surprise and stuff, a thing again that happens in this movie is she's obviously pretty convinced she's a lesbian at the beginning, and she has a scene with her friend after the Justin Bieber sequence where she admits that she's having feelings for a guy, and she's like, am I bi? Am I am I straight? And it's just like, again, a lovely surprise for someone who's growing up. It's a coming of age story, and she falls madly in love with a man. And at the beginning of the movie, she probably had no idea that was going to happen. She was convinced she mentions it, that she was going to marry a woman and have 3 kids. And oh my God, a fork in the road moment. I had no idea that I'm going to end up with a man and fall in love with him. And oh my God, he's also going to die. And I'm going to be like that is literally life. You have no idea what's going to happen. I had no idea I was going to buy this house and live in Strathroy, Ontario, meet my wife. You don't plan for this kind of stuff. You just think you might get married. You'll probably get a house, but where? What kind of house is it going to be? What kind of job are you going to have? Like, there's just so many unknowns, and that's what makes the movie exciting. And again, like I keep saying it, but I just think it's worth re-mentioning, is the weaving of themes and genres and good and bad in this movie, where it's all one. You don't, and even like that, you get 2 different versions of the same character, and they both have pros and cons. Aubrey Plaza is a little beaten down by life. She's a little less optimistic, but she's still awesome. And the young version of Elliot is awesome as well, but she's a little, she's young, and it's like they're wonderful. They're both wonderfully beautiful, and that's what's so nice about it. It's not picking sides. It's not saying you're wrong, you're right. It's not. No, this is just the whole life pie. This is it.
And I think when I was watching this, it's like, okay, I'm in my mid-30s. Well, early 30s, I'm clinging on.
I'm nearly.
You're nearly mid-30s.
Creep to the 40s.
But then it makes you think, oh, wouldn't it be interesting to then see older Elliot's older self? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
what would that be like? What would she be like in maybe her 50s? Like,
Mhm.
or maybe late 50s? Would she have somebody else? Would she be having loads of cats around her because she's lonely?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
where does it go from there? Like,
Mhm.
does she actually hit rock bottom in her like late 30s and then peak in her
Mhm.
50s? You know, because
Yeah.
that's how a life happens. Like, you think at a certain age, like normally people think in the 30s you're going to have all your stuff together. Like,
Mhm.
especially when you're in
Nope.
your teens. It's so not true.
No.
Nope. Nope.
Life gets a bit easier, like you kind
Yeah.
of can predict a bit more, but
Mhm.
it still can throw something really random at you, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, didn't think I was going down this avenue. Like,
Mhm.
okay. But everything I always think happens for a reason, and you learn from it. So, like, even though she's going to go through a horrible heartbreak of losing somebody that she's deeply in love with,
Mhm.
there's a lesson and a value from it that she'll grow from eventually. But obviously, older Elliot doesn't know that yet.
Mhm.
She's still the raw pain of her loss, like that really got me. Like when she's hugging Chad.
Oh, that scene is terrible. Like it's beautiful, but it's terrible at the same time.
Yeah.
And again, not to get too emotional, but like Aubrey Plaza in real life lost her husband
Goodness, I
like
did not know this.
recently. Yeah, and it
Oh,
hit. This movie
yeah.
hits even because the first time we watched it, it was before her husband unfortunately passed away. So
Goodness.
I feel bad
Yeah.
for her, obviously, because like man, it's interesting too thinking about it because Aubrey Plaza's the older version of Elliot, she has her own character arc in this, and it's through they both learn a lesson from each other at different stages of life, and it'd be cute too if there was a moment where like like the older version Elliot, it's like I can't wait to meet the old, like you were mentioning, the older version, even older version of us, because I think she's killing it in life. I think you meet the 55-year-old Elliot, and she's like, I don't know if she met someone else. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can be happy and alone as well. It doesn't matter, but just super happy, content, this zest for life. And Aubrey Plaza, unfortunately, is the middle part of, again, we don't know how long it's been since Chad died,
Yeah.
but you can tell she's pretty worn down on life, but she still has a little bit of sense of humor about it and stuff. So she's still there, which is good, but you can tell it's the darkest of, you're hopeful that it's the darkest of this character's life because of the tragedy, because of maybe some other stuff that's going on. You hope for that.
I think I just really love all about this. Like, even
Mhm.
though like the connection with the brother, like the fact that then she goes golfing with him and she realizes actually he is going through a lot of stuff, and sometimes you can be really selfish and just
Self-absorbed, yeah.
self-absorbed.
Everyone's going through something. That is
Yeah.
the most important thing that you can realize as a person, is that with social media, and you see a lot of people at their peaks, their high moments, they're happy, they're smiling. Every single person's going through something. Big, small, doesn't matter. Everyone's going through something.
And I think that's what the nature brings into this film, like the actual scenery. Like when
Mhm.
she sat with her mum and they're on about rocking her, and that view.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Oh,
like,
it's beautiful.
What a view. Yeah.
I was like, I wish
Yeah.
I'd wake up to that every morning and sit and have my
Yeah.
cup of tea. Like, yeah. Like, I think I'd be really happy there. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's just the simplest things of being in nature and being around things that make you feel humbled. Because
Mhm.
we did watch this and it was quite interesting that younger Elliot, when she knew she was leaving, she then started making her room more homely. Like, she was putting
Mhm.
things up. She was like taking a pride in where she lived because then she knew she wasn't going to have it for much longer. And it's
Mhm.
showing how much we take for granted, thinking it's just going to be there all the time.
And yet, her brother, who's very much obsessed with Saoirse Ronan, starts putting up the pictures on the
Saoirse.
wall.
Yeah. I said this to my wife too. I thought it was amazing that this picture, this huge shrine for her, just these beautiful, elegant photos. She's holding awards, and just she's like obviously like on red carpets and stuff. Just so elegant, just beautifully perfect. Like the drawing in the middle. I'm like, it's just like lovely.
It's beautiful. We also get a little bit of
Little Women.
Little
film.
Women.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
Yeah. Little Women's fantastic. Yeah.
We only recently
we
watched it. Was it
covered
last
that.
year?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And I absolutely adore it. So when I saw it straight away, I was like, just I didn't even expect it in this film. To be fair, but obviously it makes sense.
Yeah.
with
if
the
he's
lead.
obsessed with the yeah.
Oh, the cast of Little Women is insane, and I think a lot of people, when Barbie came out, a lot of people hadn't seen Greta Gerwig's previous work. Lady Bird and Little Women are awesome, like they're so good, and I hope a lot of people went back and revisited them after seeing Barbie, because like I thought Little Women was fantastic, but it had an incredible cast. There was no way this movie was going to be bad. Like Florence Pugh now is huge, and Emma Watson is in it. Like it's so good.
I think that was one of my main things was Emma Watson, because I'm a massive Harry Potter fan.
Of
so
course.
like growing up with that, then it's like interesting seeing her in another different role. So that was my main like attraction, wasn't it, to it? But then you were on about, I forgot her name now, some Pugh.
Florence Pugh.
Yeah. You really liked her as as an actress.
Yeah, she's fantastic at everything.
We didn't we recently watch something that she was like was one of the first ones?
The Falling.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
For me, it was did you guys see Fighting with My Family? Because again, that's a British family, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, she's Fighting with My Family was awesome, and based on a true story. Like it was real, and she was really good in it.
I don't think I've seen that.
There's my recommendation for you: Fighting with My Family.
I know I've definitely seen it, but I don't know if we've seen it. Maybe forgotten it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I have. Maybe
next episode, Fighting with My Family. You'll love it.
Sounds good.
So good.
What else can I say? Chad's character, I feel like for a teenage girl, obviously watching this, he reminds me definitely of like a younger boyfriend that I would have had back then. Like,
you did bring it up.
It does remind me.
It's quite lanky, wasn't it?
It was very lanky, very tall, like just like skinny boy kind of teen stage. And I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to break her heart. And I think that's probably because that's what I was manifesting that happened to me when I was younger. So I was straight away in this character thinking, he's going to hurt her. Don't go near him. Yeah. Did I ever realize that actually he was her soulmate? I didn't. I'd already got my walls up for. Like, obviously, older Elliot had told her for a reason.
Yeah.
That's what you assume from that, isn't it? Yeah, the obvious, yeah.
And I think that's why then that scene of knowing that he was going to die really hit me hard, because you anticipated it. I did not. And I think it was then actually like, oh God, because that's something that I really get scared of, like thinking as you grow older, you're going to lose people and it's going to hurt and it is scary. And like, I think that's the bit of life still sadly goes on. And I think that's what you see in the grief of older Elliot. Like she's still trying to get her faculties together of how does her life now with Chad not being there.
That's why I think it's recent. Again, they don't say how long it's been, but I feel like it hasn't been that long since he passed away. And another thing too about his first scene, which again rewatching it is interesting to see. They do a good enough job where obviously she's skinny dipping, she's uncomfortable. He's kind of toying with her and playing around. You could maybe get the sense of he is a little bit of a creep, just in case. But when you rewatch it, knowing he's not, it's a sweet moment where he's not swimming underwater, touching her, looking at her. He goes underwater once and comes back up, and he's all playful. So again, I just think it's a well-written scene where he's just a young boy. He happens to be swimming with a naked girl. He makes her a little uncomfortable. She's uncomfortable. She leaves. But when you rewatch it, it's like, he doesn't do anything wrong. He's just there swimming himself. He might be skinny dipping too. I don't actually know. It's just young love but you can see it the other direction too, where if he ended up being a serial killer, like they joke about, it'd be like, he might have been a little creepy in that moment, but he's not, which, I mean, he's just kind of, again, he doesn't do anything wrong in my books. He's just kind of there. She leaves, whatever.
So just linking back on that, I think a film that's just popped into my head is The Notebook. I don't know if you've seen it.
Of course.
And I feel this is actually quite similar. So initially, Allie is like repulsed by Noah. She don't want anything to do with him. And this is kind of the same thing with Elliot and Chad, just obviously a more modernized version. And Chad keeps pursuing Elliot because he really likes her. And it's the same thing with Noah in The Notebook. And I think the boat as well, I know that sounds daft, there's a lot of scenes in The Notebooks where it's like they're...
And it rained as well.
The canoe,
Yeah, and it rains and they kind of get stranded and they have to take off their clothes and they're getting wet through. Obviously, they go back to the house, whereas they kind of go on like this pier in the middle of the water. And straight away, them two, I was like, oh, well, we know where this is going. It's implied.
And
it just now kind of makes me think there's some inspiration from the Notebook from there. Obviously, the Notebook, yet again, pulls on my heartstrings every time. I will cry when Ali forgets Noah and she doesn't know him anymore, and the Alzheimer's, it's just too raw. And I think it's just one of those things where you realise, yet again, time. If she hadn't have thought, oh, I had to please my family and their kind of like criteria back then, what they wanted, I could have actually been with Noah and lived a happier life for a lot longer and remembered it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, she had a brilliant life when she did make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what's embracing and powerful with younger Elliot. Like, she's like, no, I know I want Chad. He's meant to be for me. He makes me happy. I've not felt this way about anybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm going to persist and carry on down that route. And I think that's, I don't know, my favourite movie when I was a lot younger was The Notebook. Like, I did a photography degree and I did like my whole module on The Notebook. And that's how obsessed I was. And now, I don't know why, only did that scene make me think of it, but actually it is really similar.
In more ways
More,
than one.
yeah.
It's from that,
And she looks the younger Elliot, the actress. She looks a little bit like a young Rachel McAdams as well. Rachel McAdams is my favorite actress, so I've seen almost all of her stuff. She's from this area, like she was born in my hometown, and like we talked about Time, The Notebook. She also did The Time Traveler's Wife as well. So I see the similarities for sure. And again, in a he's pursuing her in a respectful way. He's not crossing any line.
Yeah.
Noah goes a little crazier with like the roller coaster and all that, obviously. But it's all, again, it's all, I mean, that's what it takes sometimes. And it worked. At the end of the day, they lived a happy life together until obviously the tragedy at the end. But that's what it takes sometimes. And like in this case, it was different because she was given the information from the older Elliot to stay away, but you can tell there's even in that first scene when she leaves uncomfortably to get her clothes and stuff. There's a little bit of a connection. It's just the Chad. When she hears Chad, she puts her wall up and she leaves.
Yeah.
But it's charming and young love. It's beautiful, and he's doing nothing wrong. He's into her, and he listens to her. He helps her. He's funny. He checks so many boxes. Like my wife always says when we like the first time we watch it, he's just checking all these boxes for her.
Yeah.
And in her case, like at this point, she thinks she's a lesbian, and he still kind of breaks through, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what sex and all that. Like you have a connection with a person, and she questions it throughout the middle part of the movie. She's like, can I fall in love with a guy? And I like the joke when they're about to have sex where she's like, I've never had dick sex before. And again, they have a good job through, and it's the same with About Time, of just little sprinkles of comedy in these romantic moments, these sad moments. Like I like when he shows up when she's sitting with, or where she's standing with older Elliot at the end, and he's like, you can see her, and he's like, yeah, am I not supposed to see her? Like, like it's just beautiful because you're crying, and then you're like, you laugh, and then like that's the best, is when you can cry and laugh at the same time, because it's both an emotional response that you're going through. And it's wonderfully written, this movie. It's beautiful.
And I think that's what we were saying, like Barbie made me cry when we kind of have that speech of how much a woman has to go through and put up with. But then there are so many moments that it kind of just makes you on this emotional roller coaster, which is beautiful, because actually, yes, I'm sobbing in tears and, oh, okay, now I'm laughing. And it's like, they do this really well balanced of, yes, okay, we want you to feel sadness, but actually we don't want you to then end with sadness. And I think that's what this film also does.
Yeah, hopefulness, like you were saying before, Adam. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same as About Time, too. If you remember About Time, it ends on a very hopeful note, again, through tragedy, and just kind of reaffirming that life is good. Like at the end of the day, just try to have more good than bad, because you're going to have bad. But just try to be hopeful, be young, be crazy, make mistakes, love. You're gonna get your heart broken. And again, that's it. Like, what's the point of with divorce rates being like 50-50 now, or whatever they are now? Like, what's the point of trying? Well, because you could be insanely happy for the rest of your life. You could be. So you might as well try.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. It's like, wouldn't you prefer to try and then fail and then try again and it be really successful, than not try at all? What life is that if you're not going to try? I know you also, Paul, had another recommendation that you said that.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as we've been talking about, like, again, sort of like a meeting yourself kind of thing. But I don't know if, Adam, if you've seen a film called Petite Maman, which
No,
is like
I haven't.
a French film by Celine Chimama, Shima, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yeah. So
Yeah.
that's basically about a young girl who meets her mum when she was like a very young girl as well, so at the same age, so like
Okay.
much like the opposite way round, really,
Mm.
of that. But it's real. That's a short film. It's only like 72 minutes, but that's really sweet and endearing as well. Like how
Yeah.
that's come
Yeah.
across as well. Like
It made me want to be friends with my mum when I was younger, like
Mhm.
having my mum as a best friend,
mhm,
but the same age as me.
mhm,
And then understanding what her life was like when
mhm,
she was younger. Because I think
Mhm.
sometimes when you're a child or somebody, I know it sounds daft, you see your parents and you never think they're younger. Like you just see them
Mhm.
as that age, like,
mhm.
oh, that's my parent and they're old. And that's
Yeah.
kind of when you're little, that's your association. You don't
Yeah.
think, oh, they used to be a teenager. Like
Yeah, like me.
They had
Yeah.
all the same
Yeah,
they had all the same feelings as you, the
yeah,
thoughts as you, the questions, wondering, mistakes. They
yeah.
went through it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
And
weird to think about.
yeah, and I think then that's why they're so wise and they're able to give you valuable life lessons.
Mm.
And I think this one is really beautiful. It's it's still, I'm sure it made me cry. I don't think it made you cry, but I think it's more because it's a mother-daughter connection. So it's
Mhm.
kind of more, I took it more
Yeah.
personal, like within it.
Yeah. So, which is on top of that, I was going to bring that up as well. Do you think this would work the same way if it was a boy meeting an older version of himself, like swapping the gender roles around? Do you think it would work so well, or do you think it works better because it's female led, as it were?
I wouldn't go as far to say it as it would be better. I think if it was executed the exact same way and you casted a boy and an older man
Yeah.
as good as you did, it could be about the same. Again, I just think that it was written and directed by a woman,
Mhm.
starring women. I think that works. I think if a woman wrote and directed it and it was
Yeah.
starring a man, maybe and again, the same thing in reverse. If a man wrote and directed this and it was
Mhm.
starring women, wouldn't probably be as good because you have the association basically where you could tell she knows how to write for women. There was probably a little bit of
Sure.
improv, but
Yeah.
it's just little dialogue. Like there are little jokes and quips that like my wife's laugh. Her name's Jamie. I'll start referring to her as Jamie. But when you were watching Jamie, like there's a line where she's like, "You have bangs. I don't foresee myself ever having bangs." Like I don't really laugh at that. Like I get it, it's kind of
Yeah.
funny, but she
Yeah.
finds it more funny because again, it's just
Mm.
relatable, and that's what I like about it is that I
Mhm.
think I would never say it would be terrible with men. I just think I've seen this version; it's perfect.
Mhm.
There could be a perfect version of it with boys, but I don't want it. And again, what I like about it is growing up, you have a lot of movies that you were raised on and you connect with. Mine is like The Sandlot, and it's all boys. I can relate, I can connect with that. But the
Mhm.
best movies are the ones where even if it's not your sex or gender,
Yeah.
you can still relate. I can relate to this movie, even though it's a girl talking about
Mhm.
girl stuff throughout it. There's
Yeah.
some things I don't connect with. Obviously, I'm a boy, but the messages, the themes, all that I totally get. I cry. I'm connected by it because it's well done. It doesn't matter that it's about women because we're humans. We go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And then this movie has the added bonus of female representation because we need more of that. And this is great. Like again, like the jokes I was saying, the emotional stuff. Again, there's more lines I can't really think of them. Like she makes the joke about her cup size, and she's like,
Yeah.
"Don't worry, boys don't notice. Girls notice, but the boys won't notice."
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, that's funny. That's funny stuff, and
Yeah.
and just little things. But
It's
again,
like keeping your retainer in as well, moisturizing
yeah,
in the night. Please, could you do these for me?
that's
So
one
then,
of her last lines. She's like,
Yeah.
"Please moisturize," and it's just like that's
Yeah.
brilliant, and I'm glad that again we need mixed bags of these, especially coming of age. Like again, you have your Stand by Me, you have your Sandlot, you have Goonies, you have all these
Mhm.
old iconic coming of age movies. A lot of them, unfortunately, are towards the male side, whether they're
Sure.
directed by men, starring young boys. And then you have your Little Women's and your stuff, and it's getting more and more now where girls just need to see more of this. We all need to see, and it just needs to be even because we have girls, guys, coming of age, all the same. So to wrap up, to answer your question, I think it could be as good with guys if it was written and directed specifically. And again, it's just all about the execution. This
Sure.
movie was casted well, it was shot well, it was written well, and all of that doesn't matter that it was a boy or a girl. It just so happens that it was, and it was great. Greta Gerwig wrote and directed and adapted Little Women, starring women, and it was great. Little Women could be good. It would have to be a different title, but Little Men, you can make a good version of that, but it would have to be morphed and changed, obviously.
Yeah,
but
sure.
These and that's what this it's just wonderful. You don't, because I'm not thinking about that she's a girl. I'm thinking about she's a kid, and she falls in love and all this stuff. Like it's just so well done. I want more people to see it because it was a straight to Prime movie. I don't even think it went to theaters.
No, I don't think it did. No, which is like interesting to think of. Like, would this have how well this would have done it? You know, being in the cinemas and everything.
It's probably a small budget. It could have been profitable. I would hope. Like, did you guys watch Peanut Butter Falcon? It came out in 2019.
Yeah, I think we did a long while ago. Yeah. Sophie doesn't remember, but
it went to the theaters, and it obviously didn't do that well. Very similar, low budget coming of age story, and I love that movie. But they unfortunately just don't do as well. They don't make a lot of money, so I get why this went to Prime. But it's just like, how do you not love this? Like, everyone would love this. I hate to say perfect movies because I don't think there's really anything that's perfect. But this movie can't be made any better. This version of this story can't be made any better. The only thing that would make it a little better, it could be a little longer, which is a huge pro for me for movies, because I want to leave wanting more. I don't want leave wanting less, where I think it should have been trimmed, it should have been cut. This was unnecessary. And that's why I think it's amazing, because it's like I want a little bit more, like you were saying before, where you want more Aubrey Plaza. Of course. I don't want hours of her, but a couple more scenes would have been great.
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that's something I 100% agree with, because like when we had the Barbie and Oppenheimer, and we went and go to see both,
very different films.
Oppenheimer was so long, and I was just like, I can't tolerate my attention span's not there anymore. I'm like a fish. Give me it in short, sharp, really, really good bursts of energy and impacting film. Like, it was a great film, but it was just too long. And I think that's when you kind of get exhausted and you lose
your interest. Even I'll admit with that film,
And this was just, I never lost my interest. I was fully engaged the whole way through. I enjoyed the story. I always feel like if I'm going to enjoy a movie if I invest in the character, and I was fully invested in Elliot's character. And I think that's the main drive. Like, you just want the best for her. And
you're rooting for her. You're rooting for, even though you know the a little bit of her outcome in some of her life, you're still rooting for her. And again, it's just masterfully done. And sorry, just about runtime, I just found it interesting because you brought up Christopher Nolan. It's funny that Oppenheimer is longer than Inception. And Inception is this complicated movie about dreams, and he's able to tell that story quicker than Oppenheimer, a story about a guy designing a bomb that eventually blows up. It's amazing that it's like 2.5 hours Inception, all this stuff's happening, and you can tell that story, and Oppenheimer needs to be longer. It's like, oh my God. Okay.
And also, I think there's another aspect of this as well that you can think of logically. We say we don't have enough time. Then why are they making these films 3 hours long?
And then they expect you to come back to them and appreciate them again, especially if
I'm never watching Oppenheimer ever again. Like, I don't have another spare 3 hours for that. I'd rather watch this twice.
I 100% agree. I would throw this right back on right now versus watching Oppenheimer. And I love Christopher Nolan, and I liked Oppenheimer. The elements of it and sequences for sure, and it won a bunch of awards. Great, but like, rewatch value is huge for movies, and I agree. I'd watch this 3 times before I watch Oppenheimer.
But I guess that's the beauty of it being on the Amazon Prime, because then it's very easy accessible for everyone to see.
It's right there,
especially and most people do have Prime as a thing for shipping products and stuff. So
you can't survive without Amazon.
Exactly. It's like, I can't remember a time before, like what it was like before when you just
imagine a generation now just growing up with that though, and never knowing, having to be patient.
I think you're talking. I think the Amazon delivery guy's here right now. Jamie ordered something. I don't know what it is, but it's out there.
Same with you with all your 4Ks and everything that come through the post.
I think, is there anything else you want to bring up, Adam, regarding the film, or you good to go to scores?
Yeah, no, I've geeked out on this movie and like I love it. Like again, I don't see any flaws in it. I think it's brilliant. I recommend everyone watching it. Like I said very early on, it's proof of being able to tell an effective story in a short period of time, and performances are great. I recommend the film Megan Park's other movie, The Fallout. I want her to do more. She really knows how to, and again, I agree with you, Sophie, as well. Character is so key and core. You can do anything in a movie if you are rooting for the characters, or you get them, you understand, and you're on the journey with them. And you love Elliot from the first scene of this. And like we said earlier, she's tripping on mushrooms within 10 minutes of this movie, and Aubrey Plaza's already here, and it's so well paced, well shot, well performed. Everything well written. Music written by Tyler Hilton, famous for One Tree Hill. He helped with the score for this movie, and I think his wife is from London as well. And just a shout out for Canada. Like this is shot in a beautiful location in Canada, so great stuff.
What would you give it out of 10 then? I presume it's going to be very high.
Yeah, 5. No. No, again, I would love to just say 10 out of 10, and it probably is. I just to be safe, I'll say 9.5 out of 10, just because, again, like I said, I don't think there's really a perfect movie, but there are some really, really good ones that you can't make any better. So give me a 9.5 or 10. I don't care. Like you can't like it. Yeah, it's I loved it. Like I said, second favorite movie from last year.
Oh yeah, you get to go.
Yeah, I'll go. We were gonna say who's gonna go first, but I am gonna put this at an 8, and they say like
it's really good for you.
Yeah. Which
are you harsh? Are you really harsh?
Sometimes if it's kind of like comedy drama type of things, I can be a bit
And a rom-com, he absolutely slates.
Except if it's About Time or Love Actually.
Yeah,
if it's British, then he gets a pass.
As long as it's British,
yeah. But this one, honestly, like for one thing, as we've been talking about, that the locations that we're seeing here is like absolutely beautiful. I'd love to go like holiday over there, just to see those views and everything. That's like really stand out as well. And I think just like said, like growing with the character as you want to progress with the film and watching it, and so I grew to love it as the film went on as well, if that makes sense. And so I couldn't, sadly, unlike Sophie, I wasn't like crying my eyes out by the end, but I don't know if that's because of sort of
you're not a real man. Real men cry.
Right. But I can definitely, obviously there's still the emotional hit of there, like that could happen, and the fact of obviously you're thinking those scenes where I still need you still need your parents, really, no matter what age you are, kind of thing. So there's still that connection. Absolutely. And it's very relatable for everybody.
Gets you though. Like,
yeah, that does. Yeah.
If you watch, which is a similar principle. Like
that's got the sad music, and that's told without any words, and it's like, oh yeah, but that's another story. But yeah, no, I definitely would check this out again, and I know you will, because based on what we've just been talking about, so
I've been raving about it for an hour.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I didn't even know this film existed until we watched it, and I'm so glad that
Adam, if you recommend it, because it's something I did want to check out, but like whether it was
glad. I didn't
as
realize,
a casual watch, but to actually talk about it with somebody is actually been quite insightful, really.
It's been really enjoyable, and I think it's lovely to kind of pick up a film that is really, you could say it's simplistic. You kind of have got like this wonderful story, but it takes one like an emotional journey. It's beautifully done. It's I want to live in Canada. It's gorgeous, and I think it's just even the bits of the humor, the sadness, everything. It's just raw and it's just relatable. And I think you kind of then watch it and give yourself a little bit of grace and think, oh, actually, yeah, I can't be always perfect and get all my stuff together. I love the Justin Bieber vibe.
So good.
The One Last Lonely Girl. I know that song. I remember singing it. Like, I remember being a little believer. Obviously, he was like a bit around my age or a little bit younger, so it did feel a little bit strange liking his music. But still, like, I can understand, like, somebody at that age absolutely being obsessed with him, and then still being like, I love the twist of thinking she wanted to be Bieber and giving out the flowers. It's just that humorousness, and then obviously like
It says a lot about her character too.
Yeah, and I think it's a coming of age thing. So like obviously being a female, thinking that you're fully a lesbian and all of that can actually really help like a child being a teenager and learning and growing in your body. And that could relate to anyone, like we were saying. So I think for me, it's going to be a strong 9. I don't know what would make it a 10. I'm really biased sometimes. Maybe if there were some more musicals, because I love a musical. Like, maybe that would make it a 10.
It's no Wicked.
But yeah, I think I would definitely watch it again. It reminds me of one of my favourite films when I was a lot younger, which is The Notebook, which I'd say that's a 10. So I think after a couple of watches, it probably could get there. 100%. So yeah, thank you so much.
Just a question for no, I didn't realize I was recommending. I thought you guys knew about it, so that I feel that warms my heart. I'm very happy. I was gonna say between The Notebook and About Time, which would you, I feel like you lean towards The Notebook, but I was just curious for you, Paul. Which way do you lean?
More definitely About Time.
I think now I've got older, I could say About Time.
Interesting.
But when I was younger, The Notebook hit hard and I absolutely loved it. So I've got that nostalgia with The Notebook because I remember having a sleepover with all my friends and we sat watching it together like a group of girls. And obviously we were all gushing over Ryan Gosling.
Of course.
But
also from London, like all these people are so close. Were so close to me. They were born right half an hour away.
This is the thing. I love Canadians. Like I absolutely love Canadians. I've just never spoken to one or seen one in real life.
Really? Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I hope I'm making good impression for the country.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah.
You're so lovely. I feel like I don't want to say it because we have had some American guests, but I prefer the Canadians. They're just nicer. But I think it's because you feel more genuine. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it will be.
Well, I appreciate that. And you guys are lovely as well, but that everyone knows that. So
I love this.
Yeah.
But yes, no, thank you so much for your time, Adam, coming to join us and say the recommendation of the film. Really, it was really great to check out. But just before we let you go, just remind people again where they can find you on the socials.
So Apple Podcast and Spotify are the two big ones. Raised on Film. There's about 56. I just did a Substance episode or a Demi Moore episode about the Substance. So there's a bunch of stuff. There's a Rachel McAdams episode. If you like Rachel McAdams, we dive into her career. And it's just this. It's just talking about stuff we love, things that impact us, some rankings, a whole bunch of different stuff.
That's great. Yeah, I've had to listen to the show and everything. It's really great. So yeah, I will put the links to your podcast and everything in the show notes, so they can go and find you.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time once again.
No problem. Thank you guys.
Yeah. See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and a big thank you to our special guest. If you want to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And we'd really appreciate you leave us a 5-star review on any of those platforms as well. A big thank you to the patrons for supporting the show, who are Mark from 100 Things to Learn from Film, Ben from Ben Push Pull Health, Nico from the Good, the Bad, the Weird podcast, All Hail King Rhino on Instagram, Chris Gren, who is cgren_draw on Instagram, Alex, who is desperately seeking username on Instagram, Shani, who is SDOG on Instagram, Danny Jones, or Jonesy, who is @WeightLossJonesy on Instagram, Emma, who is M_Hayton on Instagram, and of course Sophie's mom. And if you would like a shout out on each of our episodes and the opportunity to vote on what we watch once a month, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/SPFilmviewers to sign up for as little as £1 or $1.50 a month, and gets you those little perks and helps grow our little community. And lastly, if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok under the handle SP_filmviewers. Once again, thank you very much for listening, and we will speak to you next time.